People feel like family.
Let's go. This is your radio.
We are Growth Radio, opening the gates for the King of Glory, the Lord, strong and mighty, the Lord, mighty in battle.
Grace and peace to you. I am David Bajnat, inviting you to join me on the program Life Lessons from the Bible. In this program, we will discuss how God intended for us to live life and what are the solutions He gave us to deal with life's problems. We will also be studying Bible prophecies to give you a biblical worldview of current events and to help you prepare for things which are to come. Join me every Thursday, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. right here on Growth Radio. We will also be streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and our allied stations. Life Lessons from the Bible. See you then. Take care. Well, hello to you. Good evening, good night, good morning, wherever you are, what time you're looking at this. It is a joy, it is a pleasure once again to be joining with you right here live on Growth Radio. I hope it all is well with you, and whatever you are doing right now, thank you so much for taking the time to join with me for the next few moments as we continue to look into the Word of God in this program, Life Lessons from the Bible. Let me also continue to say good morning, good evening to the ministers who are joining in. Also, thank you very much for all the persons who have been giving their feedback and their suggestions on the program. And so I am really delightful for your engagement and for the fact that the program has been a blessing to you. And I'm also praying and trusting God that as we continue the programs today and those programs to come will continue to be of service to you and will be helping you in what you need to do. Before we go on, let me give you some information in terms of how you could connect with us here at Growth Radio and also with me, David Bajnat. If you would like to, you could connect with us by multiple streams. We are streaming live right now on TuneIn Radio, Radio Garden, Listen to My Radio, To God Be the Glory Radio, Radio.net, YouTube. Of course, we are streaming live on Facebook, and you could always log on to growthradiott.com. Once again, that's growthradiott.com. All these different platforms you could log on and you could get us live. If you would like to connect with us, get some information, or have some form of communication, you could do so using our email address, support@growthradiott.com. Support@growthradiott.com. And if you have any particular prayer requests, we're always here to agree with you and to release our feedback to you. You could send us an email using the address prayer@growthradiott.com. Prayer@growthradiott.com. And of course, you could always connect with us via WhatsApp. And you could use the number 1-868-495-0903. For our international listeners, you could use the number again, 1-868-495-0903. And of course, local listeners, you could use the number 495-0903. And as always, we will be delighted to connect with you and to give you support where you need it. And of course, if you'd like to follow me, David Bajnat, get some more teaching, get some more information, get some more videos, you could log on, you could go to YouTube, search for my channel, David Bajnat, at Life Lessons from the Bible. That's the name of the channel, Life Lessons from the Bible. And there are many more videos. Some of those videos have downloadable material that you could download free of charge to get some more teaching and to use for your personal library. You could also search for me on Facebook, David Bajnat. And you could connect with me via WhatsApp if you so desire. The number 1-868-321-9882. 1-868-321-9882. You could send me your prayer requests, your comments, anything you would like. You could use those handles and I'll be happy to connect with you. And so bless God. Once again, as I said, I'm hoping all is well with you. I know that these days, because of the weather, the challenges in the weather, we saw some floods over the country, and I'm praying for the persons who are affected, and also that our regional corporations can help us to deal with all these flood issues. So I'm hoping that you are well, even in the midst of the present, weather challenges. Today we want to continue with our look into the scriptures, and probably the last program we will spend on this topic of evolution. We started talking about evolution some time ago, the Big Bang Theory and evolution. And today we'll probably spend the last program looking at this before we move on to something else. Let me also say as well, if you have any questions or you have any comments, you could always share those questions or comments on the live chat on Facebook, or even leave them on YouTube. But if you want, you could share those with me as well, and I will try to answer those questions live in the next program. So for every program, you could share your questions or your comments, and I will try to engage with those and answer those questions live on programs. So that way we will be able to have some form of interaction. And also, more important, not just interaction, but help clarify things for you where it may not be that clear. So you can send in your questions, and and I'll be answering those questions live on the program. Today, what we wanna look at as we close off this topic of evolution and the Big Bang is the dangers of the Big Bang and evolution theories. The danger of the evolution theory and the Big Bang theory. In the last program, we went into a measure of detail, a measure of some real drilling into the Big Bang theory and evolution and giving a response to that. And I know a number of persons responded really positively to that. And so thank you again for that. And I know some persons were looking forward to a second part of that, but we delve into the teachings of evolution and Big Bang and answering them. And we may do that at some point in time later. But for this program, this next part of this topic, what I want to do is look at the dangers. And today in this program, we'll be getting into some very, I would say, some deep and some very, very relevant and important things that would not only address what we deal with now, but we even will be getting into things for the days ahead. And we'll be stepping into, to some extent, some prophetic scriptures in the Bible, and looking at, putting all these things together. So today, this will be a very interesting program. And as we go along, you'll see exactly what I am talking about. So I want to begin by saying this here. The goal of evolution and the Big Bang theories and the teaching behind them, the goal of these ideologies is to remove God out of the equation so that man wouldn't have to deal with God and there wouldn't be any need to answer or to line up with the requirements of God. So the goal of the Big Bang teaching and the evolution teaching is to move God out of the system, out of the equation, out of everything altogether. And there are a number of consequences or a number of dangers with respect to that. And we're going to highlight those and bring them very home. We're going to bring them personal to us today. Not just only personally, but even on a global scale. We're going to see how the dangers of this topic applies to us. And I want to set the foundation by reading this scripture, Romans chapter 1, verses 18 and 19. And last week, I think I read this in the last program, but I want to rehash it as we set the foundation for tonight. Romans chapter 1, verses 18 and 19. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness, because that which may be known of God is manifest in them, for God has shown it unto them. What these verses are speaking about here, these verses are saying, in other words, the anger of God or the wrath of God is against everybody who know the truth but refuse to acknowledge it and refuse to pass it on. And the truth he is speaking about here specifically is the fact that he is there, he's present, and he is God. The truth he's referring to specifically here is the fact that there is a God, there is a creator, and that he holds us responsible. And what this passage is saying, these two verses are saying, God's anger or God's wrath is geared towards the people who know that he exists, but they choose to ignore him. They choose to believe a lie. And what is the lie? That there's no God. And even worse, they go into idolatry because you eventually will replace God with some idolatrous image. So it says that his wrath is against those who don't believe that he exists, or who refuse to acknowledge his existence. And it says, because that which may be known of God is manifest in them, because God has shown it to them. In other words, what he is saying is the fact that he exists, everybody knows that because God has put that knowledge in them. So even the atheist who says that there's no evidence that there's God, even he, God holds him accountable because God has put the evidence on the inside of the atheist. What people choose to do is to ignore it. They choose to harden themselves to that inside evidence. Now, we'll come back to this, but what I want to do is to show the dangers of this teaching, evolution and Big Bang, when we really hold on to it, when we choose to put God out of the equation, and when we choose to ignore him and ignore his word, there are serious life consequences. And some of those we're going to look at today. When we talk about the Big Bang and when we talk about evolution, one of the natural consequence of that, one of the natural um, thinking that flows from that is the people that we have. Let me put it this way. One of the teachings about evolution is something called natural selection and survival of the fittest, which simply means that in order for the humankind to get better and to progress, what we need to do is to nature itself selects the best fit people and allows them to continue living, and it eradicates or it removes those who are not so well adapted to the environment. And so, according to evolution, nature determines who will progress and who will not. You will be naturally selected. If you cannot cope, nature will take you out, and those who are better fitted, they will naturally move on. And one of the thinking that flows from that is with us today, with people today, one of the ideologies that's going on in the world today is in order for the human population to survive and in order for us to keep moving on and advance, what we need to do is to minimize or to decrease the population of the world, this global depopulation. And so there's a thinking and a belief system that the 8 billion plus people that are on the earth today is a drain on the natural resources of the earth. There's a thinking and a belief system that the earth cannot continue with this amount of people. So, in order to help us to evolve and to get better, what we need to do is to decrease the amount of people on the earth. Not 8 billion, that's too much. We need to go less than that. And that will allow the people who remain to be able to use the resources. There wouldn't be a fight for the natural resources. We will have abundant supply for everybody. And then mankind could continue to evolve and continue to develop. And so that's one of the natural thinking that comes from this whole belief in evolution. You see, when you believe in evolution, there's no real value to life. There's no value to an individual. There's only talk about the overall big picture. We have limited resources, and therefore there needs to be a limited amount of people. And so there's a thinking globally that there needs to be depopulation. There needs to be a decrease in the amount of children families could have. And there are big, not only in the religious environment, but there's discussions on that all over the place. In the United Nations has sustainability goals, and you could go on their website, the UN website, and you would see the sustainability goals they have for the next few years. And part of that has to do with population and access to food and all the resources. And so there is this thinking that there needs to be a limit, or not just a limit, but a decrease in the world's population size. And this is one of the sad consequences of holding to the view of evolution and the Big Bang, because there's no meaning to life. So we could just reduce the population so the humankind species could continue. And this is not true. I just want to say this before we move on. When God created planet Earth, and yes, God did create the planet Earth. There's a creator, he is God, his name is Jesus, and he did create planet Earth. But when he created planet Earth in the book of Genesis, one of the things he told Adam and Eve was to be fruitful, multiply, and replenish the earth, fill the earth. He told them, be fruitful. He told them, multiply. God never told Adam and Eve, he never gave mankind a limit of how much people there should be on the earth. That's amazing. God never put a limit. He never told mankind 2 billion, 5 billion, or even 8 billion. God designed the earth to support the people on it, however number. He designed it and he put it there. So let me put it like this. When God created Adam and Eve, and there was just two people, Adam and Eve, back then when there was only two persons on the earth was able to support 8 billion people, which is the number we have today. In other words, God didn't wait until 8 billion people come on the earth to then enable the earth to support 8 billion people. No. The way that God thinks and the way that he operates is he puts things in place long in advance. So God knows the population, what it would become, and he created the earth with the ability to support that population, even when there was only two people. So this belief that the earth has a limited amount of natural resources, and therefore we need to conserve the resources by depopulating the earth, that is not scriptural and that is wrong. And that's one of the dangers when we hold on to this view of evolution and the Big Bang. What that means is in the world planning, global planning, with United Nations and all the governments of the world, one of the focus is to see how we could control population, and we will get into that a little more tonight because there are some very um, detailed things that we'll be speaking about. So the global depopulation is a very serious concern that we have right now. At least that thinking is something that is present right now. But not only that, some of the wars that we fight are also the idea of evolution and so on is used to support these some of these wars. And if you don't believe me, I want to use Hitler as an example. Hitler and World War II. Hitler was the leader of something called the Nazi Party, that political movement and military movement, the Nazis. And one of the things that they held to was the Darwin teaching about evolution. Now, there's this person by the name of Richard Weikart. Richard Weikart, and you could research him. He wrote a book called The Role of Darwinism in Nazi Racial Thought. And basically, what he did in his research is to show that the Nazi Party and Hitler himself, they held to some of the teaching that Darwin taught. Remember, Charles Darwin is the person who is the father, really, the father figure of the evolution theory. And so they held to that. And therefore, what they believed was, what Hitler and the Nazi Party believed, was that the Aryan race, which is where he was from, the Germanic tribes and all these people, he believed that the Aryan race evolved more superior to the other races on the earth. He also believed that the Jews were the lower level of race. They didn't evolve as good. And so therefore, Hitler's justification, or one of his justification for going against the Jews and all of the wars against the Jews and killing over 6 million Jews, was because they were a lesser or a lower level race people, and the Aryans were the higher. And so his goal was to ensure that the Aryan race flourished, and especially the Jews were annihilated or eradicated, because according to him, they were of a lower quality. That race wasn't as important and it didn't evolve as much as it should. And so you see, evolution is not just a nice thing. It's not just something that people talk about. It has some far-reaching consequences when you hold to that belief system. And one of those consequences is when we talk about wars, because people could use, like Hitler, the evolution ideology to justify some of their actions in war. And as I said, his name is Richard Weikart, and the name of the book is The Role of Darwinism in Nazi Racial Thought. And you could go online and you could check it. You could see some of the summaries of the book online. And this teaching or this thinking about evolution and how it affects our life, it doesn't just stop there when it comes to wars, like what Hitler and his party spoke about. The idea about um, intervening in our lives today and in our health, and more so in our genetics, to help us to be able to survive and to be able to keep developing, is something which evolution, let me put it this way, because evolution teaches that the human species is only able to survive when it adapts to its environment, when it is able to, effectively change how it is so that it could function in its environment successfully. One of the thinking in the world today is that if we tamper with the genetics of mankind, we will be able to help the evolution process, and we could make mankind genetically better to adapt to the environment we are in the world today. And so there's a whole science of genetic engineering that have developed over the years. And today we are in a very advanced stage of genetic engineering. And the thinking behind genetic engineering is, if we alter or we edit or we make some changes to the human genome, we could help mankind to evolve better and to be able to um, adapt to the environment we are in. And so we could be able to survive. And if we don't affect or we don't alter or make some changes to the human genome, mankind may not be able to really survive in the climate that we are in today and all of the issues that we have to face. When we use the term genome, the word genome simply refers to, the cells and everything that is in the human DNA. It just genome simply refers to everything that makes up our DNA. And so if you alter the genome, you're really altering the makeup, the DNA makeup of a human being. And that has far-reaching implications. But I want to set a foundation here as we go into this direction. Engineering the human genome has as one of its reason, it is to help mankind, and not just mankind, but even plant life, to adapt and to evolve better. We have reached a stage in genetic engineering today where we are able not only to affect the human genome and the genetics of plants and animals, but we are able to alter it. And I want to say that very carefully, not just to affect, but we are able to alter the genetic makeup of people, plants, and animals. If you go on the World Health Organization website, the WHO website, there's a whole section and articles on genetic engineering and their stance on it, and what their intentions are and so on. And they did a lot of research and different papers and so on. So you could go on their website and you can get some information. But I want to read something here, an extract from this website, just for our purpose here. When you go on the WHO website and you look under this section that deals with genetic engineering and modifying the human genome, there's this one part that says, the recent application of tools such as CRISPR-Cas9, CRISPR is really CRISPR, that has to do with genetic altering. The recent application of tools such as CRISPR-Cas9 to edit the human genome with the intention of treating or preventing disease And the gaps in our scientific understanding raise ethical issues that have highlighted the need for robust oversight in this area. Basically, what the World Health Organization is saying here, and in the rest of their article on genetic engineering, is they admit that we have reached an advanced stage in genetic engineering, but the World Health Organization does not recommend stopping it. As a matter of fact, they support it because they acknowledge there are benefits. One of the benefits they mention here is the ability to edit the human genome to prevent, to treat, or to prevent diseases. So the point I'm trying to get at here is we have right now not isolated events of engineering the human genome, but on a global scale, we have the framework that is in place many years now and being supported by global bodies, the framework to alter the human genome. And why they do that is because their justification is that when we alter the human genome, we will be able to help people to deal with sicknesses and diseases better. We could fight off certain diseases. One of the justification when you read not just the World Health Organization website, but other papers on genetic engineering, one of the justifications is that we could actually create species of insects to combat other insects that could bring us out. Like, for example, some mosquitoes could bring dengue, malaria, and other kinds of sicknesses. And one of the justifications for engineering the human genome is that we could create species of mosquitoes that could breed with the mosquitoes that cause sicknesses and eventually result in the eradication of those dengue causing mosquitoes and malaria causing mosquitoes. So there are many good medical and scientific application of this idea or this theory. But the thing is, the principle itself of altering the human genome is a dangerous thing. They are dangerous to that, and we'll talk about it a little bit more. But this is one of the things, or one of the concepts, one of the